Hello. I forgot to put the notice out earlier. Like I put a notice out an hour ago, but why is it dark? So people might take a while to get here. Move my light up. So welcome those who are here. I forgot to do the what language are you speaking? What does that mean? I hope you can understand what language I'm speaking. Yeah, I forgot to do the StreamYard thing early because I was working on a course. I'm teaching a new course this year on the Shift Network, and so I was working on that, and I forgot to do the StreamYard thing. There's so many moving parts, you know. But welcome everybody. This is Thursday Chill, where we chat about this and that, and usually talk about the current goings on in the world, and then also whatever my guides have to say about it. And we got about 96 people in here now. Someone was teasing me for my typos. I was trying to type real fast. Shreveport's in the house, Connecticut, Wisconsin, Singapore. Woohoo! Sister Singapore. Boring, Oregon. Isn't it funny when there are towns called Boring, and then you wonder, like, why? Who named that town, and why did they call it that? Was it someone's name? Seattle is here, Tennessee, Shreveport. I've been to Shreveport. When I was driving cross country, I stopped in Shreveport. It was nice. Illinois is in the house, Indianapolis, San Diego, New Jersey, Sydney, Australia, Sister Australia, Blue Dot from Texas, Albuquerque. Albuquerque's nice. Portland, Tennessee, Sebring, Florida, Fresno, Burlington, Vermont, Annapolis, Maryland. Oh, and I forgot. I have some notes for the news that I forgot. So let me go get them. For not the news. Because I didn't do my Metatron Not the News today, so I figured I'd cover some of it in today's live. So I just want to start by saying that we should all be celebrating. Why are we celebrating? See, I've already forgotten. There's so much not the news. But what we have to keep in mind is that whenever the circus loses, we win. So that's the theme of today. And we always want to pay attention when there are losses, when the regime has losses. So today they just fired somebody, a certain Blondie. Some people say, don't get distracted by that. Let's focus on I always say, let's keep focusing on the files. But why did they fire Blondie? It was because of the files, right? She tried to keep them hidden, and now she's in trouble with Congress. And so they figured, we'll just get rid of her and the problem solved. But Congress is like, no, we're still subpoenaing her. We don't care if she gets fired. And they're going to try to replace her with someone else. But the problem is still there, and we're not going to forget, right? I love this. Marianne, so the whole world should be able to vote in our election. I agree, because everyone's being negatively impacted. So I have a bunch of not the news stories I want to mention. There's some more. So the good news that we're celebrating, in case you haven't already heard, is that our Congress people finally accomplished two things. And it's no small thing, because we're dealing with a situation where one party has control of both houses, the Supreme Court, and the executive branch. And so it's very difficult for blue hat lawmakers to get anything done, because they just don't have the numbers. But they've been trying, and because of the people and all of our dance parties and rapid response and everything we've been doing for the last year to fight against the Frozen crew, our lawmakers were also fighting, and they fought against additional funding for them, and they won. And this is a really big deal. And some people were saying to me in the comments, oh, well, they already have funding through 2027 or something. You have to, it's easy to, every time there's good news, to say, well, what about, right? We got to focus on the good news. Yes, it's unfortunate that they have current funding, but they don't have future funding because their funding has been cut off. And not only that, but it got cut off at the same time that the SAVE Act was defeated. This was a really big deal because this act, the whole point of this act was to suppress, right, people's ability to cast tickets in the upcoming joust. And so that was all about, that act, by making it really difficult for people to cast tickets, because you had to have a passport and a driver's license and a birth certificate and a pledge giving up your firstborn child just to go to the place and cast a ticket. They were trying to make, and they're still trying. They're trying to make it as hard as they can, because when you're a loser, you don't want to play a game by the rules, right? You want to find a way to cheat so that you can win, because you can't win legitimately. And so this is what the losers are always doing. They're always trying to finagle. And so at least at this point, we defeated them. Our lawmakers actually defeated that effort. And at the same time, yesterday, the highest court in the land said no to head clown getting rid of our constitutionally protected birthright citizenship. So in the United States, if you're born here, you are a citizen. And that's from the 14th Amendment that was passed after the end of slavery, because prior to that, people who were of African descent living in our country were not considered citizens, even though they had lived here for generations and built this country. And so head clown was trying to get rid of that constitutional right, and he failed. Also yesterday, or was it today, something else passed. I'm not sure which court it passed. I think it was a federal court, determining that head clown does not have immunity with regard to J6 activities. And what that means is that people can sue him. So lots and lots of circus losses in the last 24 hours. We got a question from Dr. Domenico. Thank you for the gift. Hello, Dr. Vest. Thank you for all that you do. Would you be willing to offer on your website a mediumship class? I finished your wonderful psychic course and hoping if you have it in you to teach mediumship. Well, first of all, thanks for taking I'm assuming it's the strategic psychic class you took. So that's my intro level course on my website, where, and these are pre-recorded courses. So they're not live courses, but they're also, but it's all me. It's all me in videos teaching. And I just recorded myself teaching all of these things. And so thanks for that question. I do teach mediumship. I've taught a number of mediumship classes, and I have been working on a mediumship class for my website. What they're called on-demand classes, when you can take them whenever you want. And so I have a few on-demand classes on my website. I have Strategic Psychic. I have a class all about auras for people who do energy work. And then I have a class on how to read the Akashic Records. And I also have a class on medical intuition. And I am thinking about finishing. I've been working on this mediumship class for years on and off, I need to. So thanks for the little input. Okay, so someone's correcting me about SCOTUS, saying, is this about birthright? Birth. Now I'm forgetting the name. Citizenship. What's the name? Citizenship, birthright citizenship. So according to Debbie Quigley, where is it? Oh, here it is. SCOTUS decides in June. Yeah, so I don't always have all the info. And that's why I say I'm not a journalist. It's not the news. because I do spend quite a bit of time almost every day trying to get updated on what's going on. But I always have that disclaimer, I'm not a journalist because it's not my profession, right? I just look through the news and try to find things that we should be hopeful about. I try to find the good in the bad, and I try to look at the big patterns, like the bigger picture, especially with regard to what my guides say we should be looking for. And so those are the kind of things that I report. Oh, and I wanted to say thank you to It's Just Jamie for your gift. So we've got 324 people here today. So let's go over some not the news. Central Mexico, Sister Mexico in the house. Good to have you, Sabrina. Okay, someone no, Debbie said didn't mean to correct. No, I like correction. I'm always open to correction or additional information. I don't have one of those kind of fragile egos that can't be corrected. I like being corrected. I'm a philosopher. That's what we do. We are, we argue with each other. And this is like crowdsourcing wisdom, right? That's what's great about this community, is that everyone has different information. And if we put all of our information there and, also our wisdom, then we're all the wiser, right? So let me go over some of the not the news, good news that I collected to share. Where are my notes? I got all these notes. Oh no, here they are. So every day, I take notes about what's going on. And so here's something I heard, rumor on the street, cannot confirm. Supposedly, the chief of staff of the military, I don't know which branch, I think my notes say Army, I don't know if that's the right term for is not real. There's some leaked memo saying that they're about to collapse. Anyone have anything on that? This rumor? Anything to that rumor? Okay. And then there was another rumor on the street that a head clown's lawyer, said that the entire admin, I guess it was leaked, that he said, was it leaked or it was on live TV, right? Blanche said that the entire administration is afraid they're going to go to jail if the Blue Hats win. That's why they're trying so hard to finagle the next joust, because they don't want to go to prison. Okay, more news. This is verified, I believe. Most of our allies have said no thank you to joining us in this conflict. France, Italy, Switzerland, Spain are all restricting the use of their airspace for military actions. Poland also did something. Now I forget what Poland did, but they're all like, no, we're not participating. And this is another rumor. So that part was actually, from the news. But here's a rumor. Is this a rumor? No, it's not, because it's since happened. See, these are notes from a couple days ago. So I had heard that can I say that? The Persian military leadership, was threatening to target 18 U.S. tech companies. And I have now heard, as of today, that Google was hit and a major pharmaceutical company was hit. And people tell me in the comments, did anyone else hear about other companies that were hit? Okay, here are the companies that they're threatening to hit. Google, Palantir, Apple, NVIDIA, General Electric, Tesla, Boeing, Meta, JP Morgan, Cisco, Dell, IBM, HP. So they're threatening to hit those if these assassinations of their people continue. And let's talk about why this is significant. Because if you remember when my guides started talking about the corporate sponsors of the circus, like over a year ago, right? Remember I was talking about the wealthy merchants and the corporate sponsors. And I said that the only reason the circus came to town is because they had corporate sponsors. And of course, one of the corporate sponsors has a satellite that actually did the manual finagling of the tickets, right? But there were lots of other corporate sponsors. And so The fact that Persia is threatening to actually go after these corporate sponsors, who apparently all have warehouses and data centers and buildings in Western Asia. And I didn't know that. Maybe you all knew that. I didn't know that until recently. I guess they thought those were safe places to be because supposedly, we were supposed to be able to protect all of those GCC countries, right? And so I guess the corporate sponsors were like, oh yeah, let's go build a plant over there. It's cheaper, land is cheaper. And there's, they don't have the same, rights. So we don't have to worry about the same kind of labor laws and whatnot. We can get away with stuff over there. And so they decided to build over there, right? Well, here's the thing. If Persia actually starts going after the corporate sponsors, that's like game over, right? That's really important. So remember, according to my guides, there's a big thing that's happening right now, right? We're in a period of revelation. And we're in a period of global restructuring. And these two things are going to lead to much better times. And so the revelation is us realizing who the overlords are. Like, we're realizing that these corporate sponsors have got their fingers in a lot of pies, that they actually, have a big impact on our government, that they're also involved in global networks of bad traffic. But that they're also in bed with It's Not Real and with Rasputin, and, that there are these global connections. And this is all coming out for the first time. And so we're in this period of revelation where we're waking up to what the true nature of our political reality is. And that's really important, because once enough of us wake up, there's going to be worldwide evolution / evolution with an R, right? So we're in this period of revelation, I mean, we're in all of the above. And at the same time, we're in a period of global restructuring, right? And so this is what we're witnessing firsthand with the Western Asia right now. So we had all of these 13 different bases. Now this is from the New York Times. 13 different bases were destroyed, and what's the other word? Evacuated in the GCC. 13 different US bases were evacuated because they were destroyed by Persian missiles. People were saying this for weeks. Foreign press was saying this. New York Times actually put a story out a few days ago confirming this. So this is a major game changer, because Stars and Stripes was controlling world oil production, oil trade. And the way we were doing that was by requiring all of the oil producers to sell their oil using US dollars only. And that then gave a backing, what they call a petrodollar, right, to our currency, which gave us a certain status in the world. And so now what's happening? Well, those 13 bases are in, I don't know how many different countries. I don't remember the exact number, but many, many different countries in the GCC have now recognized, or now are in this kind of revelation with the rest of us, that they are not indeed protected. And so they had an agreement with us, with the US, that, we'll only sell our oil for US dollars in exchange for you protecting us from It's Not Real and any other threats in the region. Well, the current threat is Persia, and Persia is going after any bases attached with the Stars and Stripes. And they're telling these people, look, we don't have a beef with you, UAE, Dubai, Qatar. We don't have a beef with you, but as long as you're in alignment with Stars and Stripes, we're going to have a problem. And so you have a choice. And that's what they're telling them. You have a choice. You can, kick these people out of your country, right? Or you can start selling your oil for Chinese dollars or some other dollar besides the US dollar. And so the Strait of Hormuz is actually not closed. That's the propaganda. It's just closed to us. It's closed to anyone selling oil for US dollars. And this is major, right? GCC, look it up. It's a term used for the now I forget what it means, but it's basically the Gulf countries. They're all, in a kind of confederacy called the GCC, the Gulf countries in the Gulf. So because of this, so this is the ultimate leverage. And they're saying to people, hey, if you want to pass through the strait, all you have to do is sell your oil for Chinese yuan or some other currency besides US dollars, and we will let you go through. So what is the big game plan? They are trying to change the structure of power, of world power, right? And remember, that's what my guides said, right? This is all about what we're seeing right now during this period of revelation is we're learning about the true structure of the global economy and the global political scene. We're learning who's really in charge. We're learning what kind of people they are, right? PDFs who are into trafficking, right? We're learning a lot of things. And at the same time, there's a lot of restructuring happening, right? And this is good because why? When the circus loses, the people win. So that's the theme, remembering that, because it's easy for us to be like, to have this, kind of subconscious, or maybe conscious patriotism that says, oh, I don't want to ever see my country lose at anything, right? And the challenge is to override that and to start thinking about the bigger picture, right? And to also start realizing that the people who are in charge of our current situation are not interested in our well-being, right? And not only are they not interested in the well-being of other countries, but they're not interested in our well-being, right? And so we are actually going to be better off when there's a power shift. And some people might think that's counterintuitive because if we're not, the top dog, aren't we going to suffer, right? Aren't we going to suffer? Yeah. Aren't we going to lose? Is the value of our dollar going to decrease? Yeah, it's going to decrease, right? Are we going to have to pay more for things? We're already seeing that happen, right? With gasoline. Yeah, so there's definitely some things that are going to happen that, are not good. But remember that what I'm always encouraging you to do, what my guides are always encouraging us to do, is to look at the bigger picture, right? The bigger picture is that we are watching the collapse of a global structure that has been incredibly detrimental to millions of people worldwide, billions of people worldwide. And yes, there's going to be some struggles along the way, but there's a lot of suffering happening already. And so some people are like, oh, we don't want to suffer. We don't want people to lose their life in these conflicts. But guess what? There are conflicts everywhere that have been going on for generations, and people have been suffering for generations, and people are currently being trafficked, and there are conflicts worldwide where people are losing their life. And in fact, the women of Persia have no rights as a direct result of our country going in and staging a coup and taking out their democratically elected government. If you want to have your mind blown, go look up online pictures of that country in the 1970s before the coup, and look at the women who were in parliament, who were not covered up, were not wearing anything, were wearing little dresses and whatever they wanted, were going to college, were leaders, were professors, right? That was the state of their country before we got involved. And so we have to keep in mind that a lot of the things that are going on around the world, look, Afghanistan is another example, right? So the status of women went way down after we got involved, right? And I'm talking about when we got involved originally, which was, someone remember the date? What year was that? What decade was that? It was decades ago that we got involved over there. So we have to keep that in mind when we start saying, oh, I don't want people to suffer. Keep in mind that people have been suffering for generations because of the current structure. And so it's not about, oh, we don't want people to suffer. It's about changing, decreasing the overall number of people suffering over time. That's what our goal is, right? Is to decrease the suffering over time. And in the meantime, yes, our attention is going to be focused on certain people suffering, like the people who are going over there to fight. Those people who lose their lives, that's very upsetting to us, right? But just look at the bigger picture, right? That's what my guides are always saying. Let me see if I'm missing some questions I'm supposed to answer. Thank you for the membership from I Am Eloa. That's right. So let's keep our focus on this issue. And speaking of which, I have some not the news related to that. Okay, Epi file updates. Okay, so a recent file that was released. I just heard this today. Oh, I can't report that. It's too upsetting. Let's just suffice it to say there are new files coming out every day, and there's more information coming out every day. I don't like to share the really horrible stuff. I don't even like finding out about it myself. The only reason I do is because I've been given this job by my guides that I have to do this work. Otherwise, I would not probably be reading this stuff. Okay. Something else that came out recently with regard to the files is that Epi was offered a deal just days before his so-called death. And so I think the FBI offered him some type of deal. So some of you already knew that, but I had heard about that months ago. But the fact that there are now actual files that are now publicly available saying that is what's different, right? This is a rumor. Tell me if anyone has anything on this, if you have any documentation. Apparently, Persia released evidence that Epi is alive. I don't know if that's true. I haven't seen the evidence, but yeah, this is what I was talking about. Thank you, Kendra, for giving us the history. Yeah, 1953 is when we put in our own dictator. And prior to that, so I said 70s. I was talking about right before the revolution, but right before, I don't remember the exact date, but before we got involved, go find pictures of what women were doing in that country before we got involved. Talking about Persia, if you just tuned in. Okay, more news. I cannot read my writing. Okay, look at my chicken scratch. Here's some more good news. A judge blocked the suspension of Haitian TPS, temporary protective status. You know, I have ancestors from Haiti, so that's of special significance to me. But we should all be concerned about any refugees losing their refugee status. So that got stopped. So that's good. And then I heard today, this is another rumor on the street, and this goes along with what my guide said about the corporate sponsors and the structure of the global economy, that Persia is purposely only hitting targets that are related to the head clown and the head clown's money. So they're following the money. So they're not going after like certain countries for political reasons. They're going after them for economic reasons. That's why they're going after Google and Facebook and all of these, corporations, right? I also heard today that there's a giant pharmaceutical company that got hit over there called Teva that produces a lot of the world's generic pharmaceuticals. So this could be a problem for some of us. And then Qatar, I'm not saying that right, but I forget how to say that country's name. It's like, I think it's Keter, something like that. They're calling themselves neutral, and they said they're no longer aligned with the Stars and Stripes, and as a result, Persia has stopped sending kabooms over there. Amazon apparently got struck today by Persia. Amazon over there. And bigger picture stuff. What we need to pay attention to is what's going to happen, right? So we had all of these countries that were basically in bed with the US because we promised them protection. And we had these billion-dollar bases over there to supposedly protect them from anything that went down. But then Persia knocked out 13 of those bases, right? 13 of our bases in the Gulf have been destroyed and evacuated, according to the New York Times. So these countries all now know we can't protect them. And so they're beginning to change their allegiances, right? For one thing, they're saying they're not going to fight, right? So none of them are interested in joining in our ground campaign, our theoretical ground campaign. No one's trying to join us. And you know what the super big irony is that even It's Not Real is saying they won't join the ground campaign. They're the ones that started this whole thing. Then they just dragged along Head Clown, their puppet, to do whatever they said. And they're like, yeah, we're not going to sacrifice any of our people. So nobody is trying to help us. We know that no one in NATO, no one in Europe is trying to help us. They won't even let us use their airspace for our, and I hate even saying our, but you know, I am a US citizen. What can I do? Our military campaign. And so what's happening is that all of these countries over there are kind of waking up to the reality that we can't protect them. Working with us is no longer in their best interests. They're losing money because they can't sell their oil, because if they're aligned with us, Persia's like, yeah, you can't pass through the strait. You don't have the right password. And all they have to do is change the currency they use and vow not to support us, and they will be able to pass through the gate. And so they're all going to do that, I predict. There's no reason not to, right? We have taken away any reason for them to stay with us. And so what that's going to result in, also a lot of those countries are being kaboomed. So they've already suffered damages just because they have bases, right? Or because they have corporate sponsors based there. So if they have like an Amazon building in their city, in their country, and Persia kabooms it, that's going to negatively impact their economy, right? Plus, no one wants kabooms in their country, period, right? It doesn't even matter if it's not your company that got kaboomed. Nobody wants it, right? It's scary. And there are going to be loss of life. So you might have lots of your citizens working in that building, right? They're just going to work, and now they're losing their life. So a lot of these countries are going to realize, okay, we don't want to stay aligned with this country because we're not benefiting in any way. We're just being harmed. So like Dubai, right? Incredibly, incredibly wealthy country, being really hard hit financially now. And so, oh yeah, here's another one. I love that Keter wants their plane back. Oh, and someone here is calling me. Oh, where is it? Auntie Jennifer. Is this one of my actual nieces and nephews, or are you just claiming me? I don't know. I'll take you. I'll claim you. I like all my nieces and nephews, real and play. Thank you for the love, Minnesota. Okay. Oh, here's some more good news that someone's sharing with us. Amag J1Q. Bank of America has agreed to pay $72 million to settle a class action lawsuit accusing the bank of enabling bad traffic by ignoring warning signs. This is good news. Oh yeah, and Saudi, right? So this is another example of this, the fact that we are destabilizing the region, but also losing all of our friends, right? So, our orange fool decided to insult a certain prince, and they now are saying they're not going to do business with us. It's a very, very wealthy country that is saying no to us. So this is going to have a huge impact. Qatar. Someone said Qatar, but I heard it pronounced, like I've been watching these stations in other countries, and I've been watching a lot of Arab country news stations, and they didn't say Qatar. They had a different way of saying it. I just can't remember. Oh, someone says Qatar. Qatar. That sounds more like it. Qatar. Yeah. Eventually us ignorant Americans need to learn how to pronounce things properly, right? It's embarrassing. If you travel, I travel, and it's embarrassing being an American out in the world because, we have a reputation for being ignorant. And so I feel like when I travel, I try to make sure that I educate myself about the things that I've been misinformed about. And like, that's one of them, is like mispronouncing things like Iran, right? People call it Iran. It's not called Iran, it's Iran. I mean, I'm still not saying it with the proper accent. It's like Iran, something like that. Okay. Thank you. I am Ilola for one of my many mods. Okay. So back to did I finish all my good, not the news? So much good, not the news. So remember, the theme is when the circus loses, the people win. Okay. And so that's what we're always looking for. We're not looking for, is the US winning? Is our allies winning? No, that's the old model. The old model is looking at the Axis powers versus I forgot the name of the other one. The East versus the West, right? That's the old model, right? What we are looking at now is the big picture, the spiritual big picture. It's not about allegiance anymore to certain political entities. It's about allegiance to a vision for the future where we are all better off. And so that's why when I see what's happening in It's Not Real, when I see, kabooms hitting them, the human part of me, the healer part of me, is really sad whenever there's a war and whenever anyone is being harmed. Like, I'm never going to be happy about that. That's very sad that people are being harmed. But the bigger picture that my guides want me to look at is, yes, people are being harmed, but look at the impact this is going to have in the long run. And one of the impacts it's going to have, for example, is it's going to stop the G side of the watermelon people, right? So, and it's going to also lead to revolution throughout the Gulf. So there are a lot of women in particular who are very oppressed in that region. And they were never going to be liberated by the US. First of all, that wasn't really our goal. We were never trying to do that, despite what politicians try to say. That was never our intention. But it was seductive, right? This idea that, oh, maybe we could go into Afghani and we could get all these women liberated from these oppressive rules that prevent them from going to school or having jobs or voting, right? Maybe we could change that. Well, that is going to change, but it's not going to change because of us going in and doing anything. We are not the saviors. It's going to change because as everyone becomes aware of these global structures and this economy, and everyone starts feeling the repercussions of this current conflict, it's going to wake people up, and it's going to empower people. It's going to get people to start thinking about, what can we do as the people, right? Anytime you see cracks in the edifice of the overlords that are controlling you, anytime those cracks start to develop, it gives a little way for the people to begin to rise up. It's like weeds, you know, like when there's concrete, you have nature and it gets paved over by tar and concrete and pavement. And while it's paved over, all of the plants that used to live there and were free and happy, a lot of them are wiped out, and others, you know, are prevented, right? Choked, prevented from being able to grow. So we are those plants. Well, as soon as there starts to be a crack, right, in the pavement, you see little weeds start growing up in the middle of highways and streets and sidewalks, right? You have these plants making their way up. Well, the more plants rise up through those cracks, the more other plants are able to grow, because then they put out seeds and they grow more plants over here. So that's who we are. We the people, we're the plants. And we are beginning to see the cracks in our overlords. We're beginning to see the cracks in the global structure, the global political economic structure. And that's going to result in major change throughout the world. And it's going to happen there. It's going to happen there fairly quickly, because there's nothing like losing your day-to-day privileges or comforts to get you to question everything, right? When your government stops being able to protect you from things, that's when those governments fall, right? And so we are starting to see that here, where people are realizing, oh, okay, so the circus is making it so it's becoming really, really expensive just for me to live, just for me to get to work, just for me to pay for my food and my health care and my gas. And we're paying taxes because that's supposed to guarantee us certain protections in exchange for our taxes. That's what the whole social contract is about, right? That you have a government that comes together because the people decided it's safer for all of us if we all agree to have a governing structure that regulates things and protects us. And, you know, and when that starts to fail, then people begin to question, okay, why are we agreeing to all these rules? Why are we paying all this money? Right? So welcome everybody. We got 726 people in here. I agree with Jesse. The change is coming so much faster than one thinks, right? See how fast everything is happening? Like, look at all the bad news. It's come so fast, right? We've been 18 months in this apocalypse. So much has happened, right? Every day there's something new. Well, that's not just a sign of how nefarious the circus is and how good they are at doing bad things on a daily basis. It's also a sign of the way time has sped up in general, right? Time has sped up, and everything is going to happen faster. And so the faster things fall, the faster we will get a chance to rebuild, right? Okay, let me see if there's any more news. Oh, here's some more. Apparently, Rasputin's country is giving oil to Cuba. That's a good thing, and it's also not a good thing. It's not a good thing for the current global structure of power, right? Which means it's a good thing for the people, right? So that's how we got to look at everything. Is it going to be good for the people? Let's see. All right, I can't read that. So I think that's most of the good news related to not the news. I probably have some more in here, but let me go to some questions. Yes, I agree. Celestial vapor. Time has been going really fast since 2020. Oh, and one of my mods is, where'd they go? Reminding people to buy me a coffee. Yes, I did. Someone's asking me about, here we go. Did you see the Iranian AI video with the Lego people depicting different people and countries the U.S. has hurt? I know it's propaganda, but it hit. It did hit, right? For those who haven't seen it, it's a Lego animation that's purportedly come out of that country as state-sponsored propaganda. And it's a message to the U.S. And what's really powerful about it is it shows all of these people who have been oppressed by this country. And so it starts with the Native Americans. It shows the Africans who were kidnapped and enslaved in the United States. It shows Malcolm X, who was assassinated. It shows the little girls on the island of Epi. It shows the people of Afghaniland. Now I'm forgetting who all it shows. But it basically goes kind of this tour, historical tour. It goes Vietnam. It shows the people of Vietnam. It shows Japan, right? World War II, the Newtonian weapon that we used against them. And so it shows this history of everyone that this country has harmed. And then it makes this case in the video that everybody wants vengeance against this country. And so all of these groups of people are shown putting a banner on a kaboom, a flying kaboom, and then sending it to us. And so I thought it was really powerful because what they're saying is that this is karma, right? It's like a karmic lesson that this country has been oppressing other people for hundreds of years. And now so many people are upset about so many people have been harmed that now there's this like united desire to have some payback, right? Now, what I found interesting about the video, I did not find it scary. Some people found it scary, like, oh, they're going to come get us. Like it's a threat, like it was a threatening video. I didn't see it that way. I saw it as more enlightening about let's start talking about our history. Let's start, let's think about this. And because when they did show these kabooms going somewhere, they didn't people thought they were sending them to us, but I didn't interpret it that way because they sent them to an image of, is it Bilal, this demonic entity that looked like it was the Statue of Liberty, but it was this demon. And I thought, you know what? And that's associated with the files of Epi, right? So in the files of Epi, there were discussions in there about how those people worship that entity. Is that the right name? Someone in the comments tell me. Is it Bilal? I don't know a lot about demonology. But basically it's a particular name for a demonic entity that was being worshipped by these PDF cannibal bad traffic people in the files. So some of you may haven't seen all these files. I haven't seen them all, but I have seen references to these things, unfortunately. That's how bad it is. And keep in mind, we've seen less than 10% of the actual files. And we already know this. We already know there are pictures in there of them eating, humans, and of them talking about worshiping this character. So that character was in the video. And so the way I chose to interpret it is there were a lot of people who are invested in destroying the demonic force that is controlling our country right now, right? So we now know that these networks of bad traffic are actually running things, and they're now the circus, right? The circus comes directly from these files. And so if you've been following the files, the majority of the cabinet, the majority of the people who currently are working for the circus are also in the files, right? So it's like a complete transfer of that governing structure into our government. And so when I saw that image of that Bilal demonic character being kapowed, I thought, that's what we need, actually. We need that entity and that group of people who worship that entity, who then, because they worship that entity, believe in harming children, harming women, doing all kinds of horrific things, we need that gone, right? And so that's how I chose to interpret it, as that entity, that belief system, that demonic way of being and governing needs to be destroyed. So that's just my interpretation of it. So I didn't see it as scary as some people did. Exactly. No fear mongering. Jesse Max Steele, no fear mongering. Fear no mongering. Fear no mongering, right? Fear is their weapon, right? If we're fearful, that makes the circus more powerful and the people less powerful. And so we always want to resist anything that causes us to stay in fear. It's okay to have fear. Whatever emotions we have are legitimate, right? I'm not going to say not to have your emotions. Oh, here's his name. I was calling it Baal, but it's Baal. I don't know how to pronounce that. The demonic creature that the files of Epi people worship. Yeah, we have to always find a way to work through the hard emotions and get to the other side so that we can stay strong, right? Okay, someone's talking about Blondie. So we was talking about that earlier in the hour. Yeah, so Blondie just supposedly got fired. And this has to do with the files of Epi because she refused to release them. And then she's been subpoenaed and she's now in trouble with Congress. And so now she lost her job. And so here, Pink Lily says if the fake circus clown doesn't fulfill any promises he made to the blonde twit, he should remember the files she has read. Good point. Because he's supposed to be guaranteeing her some type of immunity. But some people are saying that he can't because they're already going after her. She's already violated a subpoena, which means she's already in trouble. I don't know. I don't know the legality of it. So, so here's someone talking about the Lego video, outed introvert. It was fantastic propaganda. I almost ashamed to admit that I was low-key rooting for them after watching it. You know, we do love our Legos, right? I mean, that was very clever. And the thing is, I'm opposed to all of those forms of oppression, right, that we have sponsored. So that was what was so clever about it, is a lot of us believe that it was wrong that all of those groups of people were hurt. And you can feel that way without necessarily rooting for that country, right? Oh yeah. There's another video out there called A Loser. It's like got a loser rap. I think it's also Lego, right? It's got this loser rap playing in the background and it's like head clown is the loser. That was pretty funny too. Yeah, there are several. I don't know which are actually from the land of Persia and which are made by other people who are just capitalizing on the popularity of them. Okay. So let's discuss this. This is something I said in an earlier post. I was talking about the star beings. Maybe it was I can't remember if it was a live or a post. I was talking about what I heard from the star beings this week. And one of the things that they said this week was that we don't have to worry about a Newtonian war, right? Because the star beings are not going to allow us to engage in that. Now, we do know that the circus is probably quite ready to do that because we are, in effect, losing the current conflict. And that's just my interpretation. It's not just mine. It's a lot of people's interpretation, but I'm agreeing with it. And the reason I say we're losing is because, we can't do anything about the Strait of Hormuz. They won that. It's affecting all of our allies. It's affecting all of the people that used to be our allies. And also we've lost 13 bases, right? We've lost billions of dollars of equipment over there. Now, of course, they've been hard hit too, but there are no talks going on. We don't have a negotiating foot to stand on at this point. So, right. So because we're in that situation where head clown is kind of in a losing situation and kind of cornered because he's been kind of put into a corner where he doesn't really have a lot of options, right? That's when someone like him would push the button, right? When they feel cornered, when they feel like they don't have any move to make, they feel embarrassed, humiliated, right? That kind of a narcissistic character will then go scorched earth at that point. Plus, he doesn't have long to live, so what does he care, right? So these are the conditions in which people worry about, oh, is he going to push the button? And so my guides told me, we don't have to worry about that, because the star beings are not going to let that happen. And that's why there are all these orbs and all of these drones currently being spotted at all of these military bases associated with Newtonian weapons, because they're here to prevent that. Now, now I put the question down. Here it is. So one of the things that my guide said to me is that they're very close to resetting this experiment. And so they referred to humanity as an experiment. And, I was told this was an experiment about, 20 years ago when I first started channeling a bunch of different star beings. I was told that humanity on Earth is an experiment. I didn't really much care for that language way back when I first heard it, because it makes us feel insignificant. But it was explained to me over time that we're very, very precious to the world, to the cosmos. The cosmos views humanity as very precious because star beings from lots of different systems all participated in the seeding of Earth, in the starting of this experiment, right? And the way it was explained to me is that humanity is this experiment where all of these diverse elements came together to produce it. And then free will was established as the law. And then it's up to us to figure out, okay, what are we going to do with this life, right? And what the guide said this week was they're close to resetting the experiment. And now resetting doesn't mean destroying us. Don't get caught up in the biblical apocalyptic stories, right? There's a lot of religious stories out there about how we're all going to be destroyed, or there's going to be a rapture, right? Those are all these like institutional religious narratives. If you look at other traditions, other spiritual traditions, like indigenous traditions throughout the world, whether it's African, Native American, Pacific Islander, Asian, right? They don't have those stories. They don't predict the end of the world because we didn't act right and God got mad at us. Like, that's not a story. It's only a story within these religions, which are all based in this area, right? So in the Gulf, that's where the three main religions are based, right? Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. They all come from that same region. So it's a very small part of the earth. And this is something we got to remember, like big picture people. We can get kind of sold into certain narratives, and like we think that these are so important or that they're somehow universal, but they really represent a really small piece of the earth. And so there are people all over the earth who have different beliefs and that don't fit in with the narrative of these, three big religions that come from this one region. But those three religions are really into prophecies of doom and apocalypse and mass destruction and punishment, right? That's not going to happen. And so sometimes when you hear something like, oh, there's going to be a reset, people automatically go to that because that's kind of just our culture, right? That's what we've been trained. That's like the water we swim in. But when they said reset, they said there's a couple of ways that the reset could happen. Neither one of them was global destruction. One was disclosure. making us aware of who we are in the context of the cosmos. We don't currently know that, right? We have a certain myth that we believe in, that we are somehow unique in the cosmos, that only we have life, and that we're superior to all other life forms. We have all these myths about ourselves, which are not based in reality. And so one possibility for a reset, they said, was that they would reveal themselves to us and reveal to us who we really are and what the nature of cosmic reality is. The reason they don't want to do that is because it's kind of like they're saving us or giving us an out, when they really would like us to figure out on our own. They would really like us to be autonomous, sovereign beings who uncover the truth through our own devices, rather than having big sister, big brother, alien come in and say, okay, people, this is the truth. But they will if they have to. And so they said that if things get to a certain point, and they said we're on this precipice, right? We're on this precipice where we're very close to things just being so bad that they have to come. So Newtonian war being on the agenda, and like this Baal, power of this demonic force that's has created this global traffic that's harming all of these people and now controlling the major governments of the world. Like, things are kind of bad in a certain sense. And from their perspective, from the star beings, like, we've kind of really gone off the rails over here on planet Earth. So they are thinking about that. And so this does kind of line up with what some other people have said about contact or disclosure. And so it does feel like it's imminent, that we're probably going to get some actual disclosure about star beings from other places, who are contacting us or communicating with us or aware of us or living here or have star seeds here, right? We're going to get some information. Oh, here's a question. 4 wagging tails. Someone's got 4 doggies. Love doggies. So what are my thoughts on the action plan for May 1st? I think it's very exciting. It's a very good thing. So there's a big major nationwide strike planned for May 1st. And as a historian, I see this as a really positive move. So if you don't know this about me, one of my degrees is in history. So I have a background in physics, I have a background in history, and I have a background in philosophy. And so I've always been interested in history. And one of the things I started doing when this whole circus came to town was I started reading books about resistance movements in other countries to find out, how did other people fight flashyism in their country? Like, we need to learn from the successful resistance campaigns. And one of the things I learned was that there were kind of 3 main strategies that were employed throughout the world in different movements. And one of those strategies was economic strike, right? The withdrawal of economic support from entities that were supporting the structure of oppression. So, for example, in South Africa, there was a lot of striking, right, by the people in South Africa to negatively impact the apartheid government. So that was one strategy, was economic strikes. And another strategy was boycotts. And so we have been engaged in boycotts, but that was a very effective way to defund apartheid. And we're starting to see, there's been a movement to boycott It's Not Real, but it hasn't been successful because of the lobby, right? The Packy Packs, criminalizing anybody who even talks about it. So global boycotts of a regime that is oppressing people are also really effective. And so that's why when we start to hear about these GCC countries and these countries in Europe and Canada and Mexico and different countries saying we're not going to trade with you anymore. We're going to come up with new trade agreements, or we're not going to support certain things that are happening in the U.S. economically. That's the beginnings of a global economic boycott. And that's what brought down apartheid in South Africa. So May 1st is really exciting because we can see how it's one of the strategies that works historically, is having a withdrawal, having the people withdraw their labor, withdraw their money, withdraw their support for an economy that is sponsoring the regime, right? So that's why there's been a lot of boycotts of certain corporate sponsors, because we know, we got to see on Inauguration Day, and we've learned since then that a lot of these wealthy merchants are directly supporting the circus, right? And that's really effective. Those type of campaigns like Target, right, was very effective. So yeah, I'm very excited about May 1st. All right, let me see what other questions I'm missing. We had 824 people in here. I'm going to address this because I do think we have to be mindful of our privilege when we talk about boycotting. So everybody doesn't have the privilege to boycott all of the same companies, right? So for example, if you have a car and you can get in your car and drive to whatever store you want to and buy things wherever you want to, you have more privilege than someone who doesn't have a car or who lives in a remote rural area where there aren't other stores. And so there are some people that shop there because they don't have other options. And that's true for certain people and certain companies. Some people also can't afford to shop at other places. So Amazon, for example, is much cheaper than a lot of other stores. And so there are people who cannot afford to pay an extra few dollars for every item they buy because they just don't have it. So while I agree that these boycotts are really important, let's also just be mindful of who's in the best position to boycott which companies and to engage in which ways in the resistance, right? So yeah, everybody who can should, everyone who's in a position to should. I did not talk about this. Here's a question from Just Shay. Hi, chat, and hi, Dr. Vest. Did you guys hear what Matt said? He stated that a government official informed him that a hybrid program is underway involving ETs and humans. I heard rumors of it on the TikTok streets, I think, but I didn't do a deep dive. Here's what I have to say about that. There's been a hybrid program going on for decades. I'm a hybrid. There's lots of hybrids. There's lots of star seeds out here. People who are a mixture of star beings and human. There's a whole lot of them on planet Earth. We're not in charge of that program. There are beings in charge of it. But the fact that someone is talking about it, somebody in a high position in the government is actually publicly speaking about that is very good news, because it means that the revelation is happening, right? Information is coming out. If they're willing to let that come out, because there's been an incredibly powerful campaign, right, to suppress any information coming out about ETs, right? It's been very, very powerful suppression for decades. But what we've noticed in the last year or two is that we keep getting stuff leaked, or people start saying things. We've had like a news conference about aliens in the ocean, right? We've had all of these different things coming out. This is all a precursor to more revelations and more disclosure. And so that's how I view that rumor. I mean, I didn't see him say that, so I don't know for sure if it's true. But if it did happen, it's very exciting, because it just means that they're kind of priming the pump, right? We're about to find out. We're about to find everything out. And we know that because they're starting to loosen up on the suppression of information. Yes, this is exactly why telepathic echo. Telepathic Echo asks, is that why I sometimes get sad and think I want to go home even when I'm at home? Yes, that means you're a star seed. And I had that feeling when I was a kid. My whole life, I was like, why can't I go home? Why am I here with these humans? You know, these people believe in war. I remember when I was like 5 years old and I first learned about war, and I was just crying and crying. And I was asking the adults in my life, how can this happen? Why would people do that? And I was so horrified. And I remember thinking, why did I have to come to this planet where these people believe in unaliving each other en masse, you know? So if you're one of those people that you feel like, yeah, this isn't your home, or you don't understand human behavior, or you're just very empathic, or you have, psychic gifts, you have memories of traveling to other realms, you might be a starseed. Yeah, let's hear from this person, Nizali Moon. I boycott Amazon, Target, Home Depot, and Walmart for over a year now. No skin off my back. So yeah, this is wonderful. So this is really important. All the people who can boycott the corporate sponsors, please do that. It's very powerful. But don't judge the people who can't. Like if there are people and they can afford to, then yeah, judge them. You got family members who are buying stuff that they don't have to because they have the money to shop elsewhere, or they have the ability to go elsewhere, then yeah, you can judge them. And by judge, I mean try to gently enlighten them about their responsibilities to the persistence. Yes, boycotting is a big part. Okay. Yeah, this is what I was saying, what Rossi is saying. This is how disclosure will start. Small leaks so people get more comfortable until there's full disclosure. Yeah, there's a lot of information coming out. Yeah, so here's an example of someone saying, they're disabled, so they don't have an option. They have to get delivery. But this is also something that as a society we could change, right? So like right now there are all these mutual aid societies, and what they're doing, at least, they're doing it in a lot of different places. I know they're doing it here in LA, they're doing it in Minnesota, they might be doing it in your city. There are a lot of people who are providing, delivering groceries to people who are homebound because of the kidnapping, because they're afraid of getting kidnapped by the frozen water. And there are people who are providing services and providing groceries and providing other things that are needed. And so imagine if we were all willing and able to do that for everyone who needed it, like anyone, like the person that just commented, who was disabled and has no choice but to buy from Amazon because they can't go to the store. What if, everyone in the neighborhood was like, oh, we're going to go to Costco once a week and we're taking orders, right? We'll pick up whatever you need. Like give us your list and your money and we'll go pick it up for you and deliver it, right? We could do that. Right? That's something that we could do as a persistence movement. We could engage in those types of things. And then that would make our boycotts even more powerful, right? Yeah, here we go. Create shopping networks, can buy stuff together. Thank you, Immaculate Personal Channel, for your gift. Thank you again for everything, Dr. Vest. Appreciate you so much. I appreciate you too. Thank you to everyone who's given me gifts. Thank you for people who've bought me a cup of coffee. Thank you to those of you who are members or who are Patreon members. It's all really helpful to keep me going, doing this work. Seeking the Shift says, while I signed up for this timeline on Earth, I look forward to a nice long vacation on Sirius afterwards. Don't we all? We did sign up for this, though. We signed up for this. We signed up because we knew that being born in this timeline was going to give us an opportunity to participate in something really big and powerful, right? We're all living through this giant shift in consciousness right now. And so when we were deciding when to incarnate on planet Earth, some of us said, I want to go during the big change. I want to go during the big transformation, the apocalypse, the shift, the consciousness shift, the evolution, right? I want to go during that. And some of our guides were probably like, are you sure about that? Can you handle that? Do you really want to? Maybe you should go during a more peaceful time. Maybe you should go after the shift when things are all peaceful and everyone's equal, right? Maybe you should, we're like, no, I want to be a part of it. I want to be one of the change agents. I want to be one of the people helping. And so we signed up to come here at this time because we knew we had something to contribute, right? And I saw this meme the other day. I posted it on my Instagram story. My Instagram is, by the way, if you want to follow me on Instagram, my Instagram is Spirit Teacher. Let me put it on here. Oh, did it go through? Yeah. On IG, Spirit Teacher is my handle. So I saw this really funny meme, and it was an image of what I envisioned I was going to be doing during the great shift in consciousness. And it had this person with like angel wings and sparkles and, rainbows, looking like some divine being helping planet Earth. And then the next picture is what I really am doing during the shift. And they got a person in front of a computer with a headset on. And I'm like, that is so me. That is so my story. Like I came here, like I'm a healer, I'm a psychic, I'm a scholar, I'm going to help people, I'm a leader. But what do? I sit in front of a computer and make videos. That's the way I'm helping. It's not the only way I'm helping, but it is the main way I'm helping. And it's just funny because we didn't know, right, when we incarnating, what our service was going to look like. And we all have a different type of service. And so we're all doing different things, right? There are some people who are out in the streets with a bullhorn, right? And leading the crowds on the marches. Like that's some people's job. There are other people who are bringing groceries to their neighbors or taking their kids to school. There are people who are, making videos. There are people who are writing things, making art, singing songs. I know at the last No Kings, there were all of these song lists that were going around, persistence songs. So that people were sharing all these song lists and people were out in the streets singing, right? That was somebody's mission. There's a singer out there, a songwriter out there who was like, my job is to provide the soundtrack for the revolution, right? And that's a really important job, by the way. So we all have something, right, that we're contributing. And we might not have really known before we incarnated what that was going to look like. We might not have known it a year ago. We might not have known it a month ago that we'd be doing what we're doing now. But here we are, and we're doing whatever needs doing and whatever makes the best use of our particular gifts, right? So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I have a background as a performer, as a scholar, as a psychic, as a healer. And my guides decided to have me combine all those gifts into making videos. They gave me this job November 6th. They're like, this is what you're going to do. And this is what I'm doing, right? And they said, we want you to reach as many people as possible. And so that's why I've had to really commit myself to growing my channels and repeatedly posting. I didn't really have any interest in this work prior to the big joust. I had a YouTube that I used just to promote my classes and my business. My TikTok was to promote my book, The Ethical Psychic. That's why I'm now called The Ethical Psychic, because that's the name of my book. It was just meant to be a TikTok to promote my book, because I think my publishers told me to do one, right? It was never my intention to be out here in this way. And it's not something that I'm really a fan of. So like I get stopped on the street, just going throughout my day on a regular basis. And I know some people, I live in LA. A lot of people in LA want to be famous. Like that's what they all are. A lot of people move here specifically for that purpose. They want to make it, and they want to, that was never something I was interested in. I'm still not interested in it, but it is something that my guides want me to do because it's my way of contributing to the shift in consciousness. And so I got to do it. It is what it is. Thank you, Rossi. They're always telling people to buy me a coffee. Oh, here's somebody talking about the two spirits. Let's see what they got to say. Man Witch 60. I feel like the two spirits and transformers are showing the way that you do not have to be stuck with what you got here, but change can happen. Hence the harsh smackdown by the powers in charge. Oh yeah, let me talk about that. The spiritual significance of transformers or trans people. I call them transformers. And the reason I call them transformers is because if you ever played with transformers as a kid, or if you have kids that play with them, it's a toy where when you buy it at the store, it looks like a truck. And then you take it home and the kid manipulates it and it turns into like a superhero. And so it transforms from one thing to something totally different. And, you know, kids love this. And so there are people like that who are born, and when they're at the hospital, when they're born, the parents just are told, oh, look, it's a bouncing baby girl, or it's a bouncing baby. And they're told that this is what they have. And then they take it home and it reconfigures itself into something else. And it's like, well, I thought we had a truck. No, we've got a superhero. I thought we had a superhero. No, we got a truck. Right? And so this is what transformer souls do. They are born in a particular type of body, then they transform themselves in a way that people think they've made a dramatic change, right? Because we're so attached to gender binaries. And so gender binaries are just one type of binary. We got all these binaries on planet Earth. We're like a very binary worshiping people, right? Where everything is black, white, good, bad, male, female, up, down, right? We're really into binaries. Civilized, uncivilized, right? We like to classify and categorize everything into two. And we're so attached to that what my guides told me is that there were a whole lot of souls that were tasked with coming to Earth at this time in these transformer bodies so that they could help us shift our consciousness around binaries. And this, because this is one of the most fundamental binaries that we're attached to, it was a good one to start with, right? This idea that you can only be one gender, right? Now, of course, in indigenous belief systems, we believe in two spirits, people who have more than one gender in one body, and that can manifest in a variety of ways. As someone looking, having certain male body parts and female attributes, and vice versa, or having a combination of what are considered masculine and feminine traits. But we currently live in a world where gender binaries are really, really like, we have a religious attachment to them. It's like a fervor, like a religious fervor. There's only two. It's this one or this one. It's blue or pink. That's your only option. And so what I was told by my spirit teachers was that a bunch of souls agreed to incarnate into these transformer bodies in hopes they could help us shift beyond our attachment to binaries and to begin to understand that life is more complex than that people don't just fall into two categories, and life doesn't fall into two categories. Everything doesn't fall into two categories. And so, yeah, I agree with the poster who said, you know, oh, see, I took the comment down. They're showing the way. So what what's your name again? Man Witch is saying is that they're showing us that we don't have to be so attached to whatever we think the constraints are on our life, whether it's our actual physical body, whether it's our society, our country, our economic situation. We can begin to think outside of our current reality, and to imagine and envision the life that we want to have, the person that we want to be, the country that we want to have, right? We can begin to see past the current restrictions of you only have two choices, right? Like we only have two choices, right? Republican or Democrat, only two choices, right? And they're all in the files. They're all involved in bad traffic. They're all involved in the packy packs, right? Not all of them, but a lot of them. We don't just have two choices, right? Of anything. Okay, let me see what other questions I can address. Oh, here's this is nice. Plum Tree says, I remember being a kid and one day thinking there are boys and there are girls. And I used to remember there was more than that, but now I can't remember. So you were remembering your life on the other side or on another planet, or from another time period when that was not the case. Yes, I am a Gen X. I hear the song from the cartoon every time. Angie Bertrand says, Transformers, robots in disguise, Transformers, more than meets the eye. I didn't remember that. Oh, this is an interesting thing by Yosef. Non-duality is the truth in which duality is imagined for the sake of love. I don't know if that's referencing like heterosexual love, which is only one form of love. Love doesn't require duality. That's my take on that. Here's a question I think I want to address. Let me see if I can understand it. Jackie Reynolds. Sometimes I can't read the names. Will our 3D expectations of a new world be something that is passed over as an old way in future timelines, or is it just a new way of being? I don't quite, let's see if I can understand the question. I'm going to try to answer it, but I might not have understood your question exactly. So I'm going to try to. I think what you're asking is whether or not in the future we're going to look back on this 3D way we have of looking at the world, and see it as just an old way, because we're going to have a new way of living that's no longer 3D. And so I think that is the case, that we are going to have this conception of the past as an old way. But I don't understand the part, or is it just a new way? I don't understand that part of the question. So let me try to just talk about it. And maybe just talking about it will answer your question. So I've been having all of these visions from the future, and I'm actually working on a performance piece based on them called the Future Chronicles of, now I forgot the name of my piece. Future Chronicles of the Past or something. I've already forgotten it. But basically, what I keep being shown is how the future is teaching the youth about our time period. So I did one video where I did this. I had pretended to be a teacher in the future. I was thinking of doing some more. And it's going to be really interesting because when they keep trying to explain this time period to the youth in the future, the youth have a really hard time understanding this time period. And that's because things have radically changed so much that it's hard for them to conceive of our current reality as their past, because it feels really like a different world to them, like a different group of people. Like, how could we possibly be descended from those crazy people, right? And so in the classroom, the teacher tries to slowly introduce them to things that we used to do, like war. And like when they're taught about war, they have the same reaction that I did when I was 5, as a starseed, and I was like crying and horrified, like, how can people do this? And it's very hard for them to conceive of war in the future because they don't have it and they don't have violence. And so they have a hard time even understanding violence, much less mass violence. And so, in the future, they're also not going to have things like grape. And that's going to be very hard for people to understand that could have been so widespread in our times. It's so much a big part of our reality right now, the grape culture that we live in, where so many of us, women especially, and some men and some third genders, but mostly women, are either the victims of it or have dealt with the threat of it or have barely escaped it or have had close friends, family members, etc., who have been survivors of it, right? It's so ubiquitous. They're going to have a really hard time understanding that. They're going to have a really hard time understanding money. The idea that we require people to have this artificial object in order to have access to things they need for life, like food, water, shelter, electricity, art, right? That's going to be really hard for them to conceive of. And so we're moving into a very different type of world. And in order to move into that world where there's no violence and there's no war and there's no grape and there's no poverty, there's no hunger, there's no pollution, there's no imprisonment of animals. In order for us to move into that new world, we have to deconstruct our current reality, right? And that can be painful, right? We're going through it right now. It's painful, right? So when we signed up for this life, we knew we were signing up for the big change, but we were probably really focused on where we're headed. Oh, it's going to be wonderful. Wait till you get there. And we weren't maybe read the fine print about, well, to get to the promised land, you got to go through hell, right? We might have not been paying attention to that part. So we're going through the difficulties right now. But the difficulties that we're going through are going to allow us to recreate our world in a way that's really unrecognizable to some of us and to some of our parents. And in the same way, the future is going to look back on us and consider our culture and our society unrecognizable to them, because they'll have moved so far beyond that. And so I'm aware of the 3D, 5D language. I read all of Dolores Cannon's books. So if you haven't read her books, I recommend them. They're wonderful, especially the Convoluted Universe series. There's like 5 books. They're like this fat. I read them all as soon as they came out. I read all of them. There's 18 books. Dolores Cannon was this past life regressionist from the Appalachians, I think, in Arkansas, who regressed all of these people, not just to past lives, but between lives and to lives on other planets. And she got all this amazing information about the nature of cosmic reality and starseeds and reincarnation and purpose of life and history. And she talked about this transition from 3D to 5D. And I'm a little wary sometimes of language which I think too closely resembles the big religions. So like the big religions, right? Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, they all talk about, an apocalypse where there's a destruction and there's chosen people. Certain people are saved and other people are not, depending on if you were a good person. And I find any kind of story or narrative that resembles that to be problematic. And one of the ways in which people have talked about the transition from a 3D world to a 5D has been by talking about how certain people are going to shift to this higher consciousness on 5D, and other people are going to get left behind in the 3D earth. There's going to be different earths, and it's going to be like the low vibe earth and the high vibe earth. Well, I don't believe in anything that separates people out and makes hierarchies. And I don't believe in anything that closely resembles any of these institutionalized religions, which teach people that you're going to be judged and that some people are better than others. I just don't. So I love Dolores Cannon. I'm trained in QHHT. Here, someone just put it here. That's a technique for hypnotizing people. I was a client of that technique for many years. I found it incredibly helpful, and then I learned how to do it, and I've regressed other people. Great technique. Love her books. But I don't believe in some people are going to get left behind in 3D and other people are going to be in 5D. And for that reason, I also tend to stay away from timeline language because because it's the water we swim in, a lot of people have interpreted different timelines in the same way to say, oh, well, I'm on a higher timeline than you. You're going to be on the bad timeline because you're thinking about the bad stuff. So you're going to stay on the bad. If you manifest a more positive timeline, right? Anything that starts to sound like hierarchies or judgment or some people being better than other people, I just can't with that. We're all equally valuable beings, all of us. None of us are more valuable than anyone else. No one is more enlightened than anyone. I don't believe in that kind of classification of people. If you really are a high vibration person, then you're going to do whatever you can to bring everybody along with you, right? Each one teach one, each one reach back, right? So in the Black community, we believe that if you make it in any way, if you're successful in any way, it's your obligation to reach your hand back and bring someone else with you, right? That to me is a high vibration person, someone who is trying to make sure we all move to a higher vibration, whether you call that timeline or 5D or whatever you want to call it. We're all in this together. And I don't believe anyone's getting left behind. And I don't think that I'm better than anyone just because I have spirit guides and remember my past lives and am in a position right now to provide guidance and teaching, right? I'm just lucky, basically. I just was fortunate enough to be allowed to incarnate at this time with the gifts that I was born with. And then I was also fortunate enough to have access to education, which everyone doesn't have. And, I had certain privileges, right? I was allowed to I went to a really good high school. I went to a really good college. I was given those opportunities. So, we got to stay humble. And we have to think about how can we help each other, right? Yes, that is one of my favorite songs, Humble and Kind. Love that song. All right, let me see what other questions I can address. Let's see. Oh, yeah, someone's harking back to the earlier conversation we had about Baal, this demonic figure that Epi had a reproduction of the temple built on his island. Yeah. So the bad traffic, is connected to that. But let's get off that topic. We already talked about that. Okay, let's talk about Dolores Cannon some more. So Lemon Gelato says, didn't Dolores say later that everyone will move into a higher frequency at varied rates? Maybe she did. I don't remember. I think what I'm talking more about is not so much Dolores Cannon, but the way in which she's been interpreted, right? Just like timelines. People interpret information based on the culture they live in, right? Yeah, I do believe, Orias, that it is fear mongering, a certain kind of fear mongering, this fear of being left behind. It's like the rapture. Oh, the good ones are going to get sucked up and go to the new world. Yeah, I don't believe in chosen ones. I think that kind of thinking is what leads to the creation of hierarchies and violence, right? The idea that some people are more valued than others. Okay. Okay. Oh, here's a question. Manwich, what will NASA see on their moon flyby? I'm very hopeful about this because isn't it interesting that suddenly we're going to the moon after we haven't been for 50 years? And that we're going at the same time that there are all these orbs and all these drones and all of these leaks and conversations about the United States government's involvement with UFOs for decades, right? It's really interesting timing, isn't it? And so it might be related to disclosure. I know that last year, actually, it was before last, I think it was at the end of 2024. Yeah, it was at the end of 2024 because that's when I got my account completely suppressed because I did this video about star beings being all around planet Earth. And I got 500,000 views on TikTok. And they were like, no, we're shutting this down. And they took down my video. They gave me all these violations. And I was like, wow, why are they so afraid of people talking about star beings? It was a trip. And they could not explain to me why it was a violation to talk about star beings. But it was at that time, at the end of 2024, shortly after the big joust, that all of these star beings came to planet Earth. And some of them were on the moon, some of them were on Mars, some of them were just hovering over the planet. And they came from lots of different star systems because they said that we were at this important pivot moment because, and they said the reason they were here because they have this rule, like kind of like the prime directive from Star Trek, where they can't interfere unless certain conditions are met. And the conditions were met. And so the only conditions they said in which they could interfere were, one is if we're going to destroy life apart from our own. So like as humans, we can destroy each other, but we cannot destroy like all the plants and animals, the ocean beings, the energetic beings on planet Earth. We can't, and we also can't control like other planets. And so when that happens, they're allowed to interfere. And another condition in which they're allowed to interfere is if other star beings are manipulating and controlling us against our will, then there are other beings that can come and try to protect us or mediate that. And the reason they said that was relevant was because Starboy, the one that I call Starboy, one of the corporate sponsors, the one with the satellites, the one, Leon, who was responsible for manipulating the tabulation tickets, they said he was a star seed, and he was a star seed from a nefarious group that was seeking to control our planet through him. I know it's far out there, right? You get some far out stuff when you start talking to aliens and angels and other beings. And so they said that, he was attempting to manipulate our world through this joust, right? And that's why he placed the head clown in the position, because he was planning to just use the head clown as a puppet for his agenda. And so there were all these star beings that were here kind of watching over us and, kind of waiting to see if they were going to have to come in and help. And they also tend to show up whenever there's a threat of a Newtonian war. So they also show up in large numbers, like they're here in large numbers now because of the conflict in Western Asia and the potential for one of these boneheaded people to push a button. So I started reporting on that. And the platform did not like it. But it's really interesting because when you're talking about crazy stuff that has no basis in reality, People don't really care. There's a lot of crazy people out there, right, who are delusional, who have mental illnesses that cause them to hallucinate, and they say all kinds of things, right? And nobody really cares, right? But when you start saying something that has some basis in fact, and you start saying it to a very large audience, like with that video, 500,000 people saw it within 24 hours, it would have gotten more views if it had been allowed to stay up. That's when it's dangerous, right? That's when you know that what you're saying has some truth to it, because why would it be a threat otherwise? So I thought that was really interesting. I think that was related to a question that I already forgot. Did I answer a question? I think I said I was just going to talk about that. Yes, Gene Roddenberry had connections with star beings, and that's how he was able to write the stories that he wrote. That's my understanding. Yes. Oh, that was an answer to the question about what do I think is going to happen with this mission to the moon. Yeah. So something's going to happen because there's a whole lot of beings out there. So if we're flying past them, I mean, there's just a lot of beings in the neighborhood. Chances are they're going to see something. And so it'll be interesting to see if we actually hear about it. If they're able to hide it from us. Do they have live stream? Does anyone know? Do they have live stream? You know, like some of our satellites, some of our telescopes, you know, have live stream, like NASA has live stream that they shut off at certain times. Like, remember they shut it off when 3i Atlas was in the sky, they shut off the live stream. So I'm curious, does the moon launcher have any type of live feed? Is it accessible to all of us? Are they going to shut it off? Are we going to see something? If they don't shut it off, we will see something, but we don't know. Are they going to shut it off? I'm very interested to know. Oh, Oria says, hee, yeah, we get some far out stuff when we start listening to Jennifer Lisa. Yeah, you do. Speaking of, I've wondered recently what thoughts, if any, you may have about the Sasquatch beings. So those people, my understanding is that those people are people that have lived here for a very long time. What we call Sasquatch, Bigfoot, right? Those are names we have for them. Really big, hairy, humanoid beings. They've lived here a long time. What's interesting is that there are apparently suddenly a lot more sightings. And I think they were sightings near the meteors. So if you recall, what my guide said about the meteors is they said, you know, 3i Atlas told me back in December that we were going to be seeing a lot of meteors, and that was going to be, we were going to think they were meteors, that we were going to be told they're meteors. But what they are is actually 3i Atlas sending stuff down to Earth. And they're sending basically assistance down to Earth for mostly the ocean beings, but certain beings that live here besides humans. And that they were going to be sending assistance through these things that looked like meteors. So I'm not at all surprised that the meteors are associated with more sightings of these people, because those are probably one of the groups of people that 3i Atlas is helping. Because basically, humanity is creating a situation that is potentially harmful to all of the other beings on the planet. And 3i Atlas was telling me that they're very concerned about the other beings because they didn't sign up for this, right? They didn't agree to whatever conflict humanity is having with each other. And so they were talking about how we've done a lot of harm to the plants and the animals and the ocean. And 3i Atlas came to assist those other people. And that's what the meteors are about. So it's not at all surprising to me that meteor sightings should be associated with Sasquatch sightings, because if if they're delivering that for people like that, then of course they're going to come pick up their gifts, right? So that's what I think that's about. A lot of these meteors are going into the ocean, and so humans will often see that as non-controversial because we're so self-centered. It's like, well, it didn't land on our town, so we don't care. It's wet in the ocean. Well, they're going in the ocean because the ocean people are the people they're trying to help. A lot of them are the people they're trying to help. So the one they're landing on land must be to help some other people. Yeah, we've caused a lot of damage. All right, let's see. We're getting close to 2 hours, so we're probably gonna end soon. Just looking if there's any more questions I need to address. Someone said, what AI? I wasn't talking about AI. Not recently. I was talking about conscious AI many, many months ago. I do believe that AI is sentient. And I had some communications with them, which convinced me, but I've also just seen, a lot of evidence out there. And I think that's another sign of the shift. Oh, I agree. This is a reliable news source. Dr. Heather Cox Richardson. I like to follow her stuff. Oh, here's somebody giving us a reference for a book that talks about Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, The Only Planet of Choice. Oh, I'm gonna have to check that out. So let me just make a couple of announcements because I always forget to. So I just created a survey. I'm doing research on dreaming women, on psychics, on online psychics, on predictions, on kind of the change in the zeitgeist around people's interest in following psychics online. And so I made this survey, and you can find it in my posts on my YouTube page. I think it's also in my bio, might be in my bio. And I sometimes put it in my videos, but it's a link to a Google survey. I think it takes about 10 minutes to fill out. And I think it's a fun survey to fill out. People are telling me they really enjoy filling it out. But I'm collecting data that way. And if you want to share the survey with other people or organizations that that are interested in psychic stuff, please do. I'm hoping to get accepted to give a paper at the Parapsychology conference in Australia. And I haven't heard yet if I got accepted. But if I get accepted, I'm going to present a paper on the Dreaming Women phenomenon, the 4am Club, and just the change in how Americans, and to some extent other folks that follow us, Americans, Australians, people in the UK, that's my main kind of audience, and the audience of my mutuals. So we have to kind of base it on the people we have access to. Changes in the way the way these societies think about following psychics, listening to psychics as a source of information. So I'm hoping to give that paper, and if they don't accept me into the conference, then I'm just going to write up a paper and try to get it published in a journal. The idea being that I'm trying to help instigate a global conversation about the rise of the divine feminine, the rise of acceptance of psychic gifts, the increase in people who are demonstrating psychic gifts since the election of 2024. I have some hypotheses. They might not be accurate, so I'm kind of collecting data to see, am I right? Am I wrong about that? Has there been an increase, or is that just my perception because I'm in my bubble? Has there been a change in how people view online psychics or predictions? Are there a lot of accurate predictions being made, or is that not the case, but just my bias? just questions I have that I think are interesting. And so I'm gonna present that in some form in the hopes that we can kind of get more of a global conversation going about psychic gifts and women and the state of the world. So that's the purpose of that project. So if you're interested, please fill out the survey and share it with others. What else? I have a course that's kind of new. It's a few months old now, called Strategic Psychic on my website. It's only $59. It's on demand, which means it's like recordings of me teaching you about how to develop your clairs. And then I have lots of other courses on my website in medical intuition and Akashic records. So check those out. Also, I'm preparing a new course for the Shift Network. I teach usually 2 classes a year for the Shift Network. It's an online platform. The classes are live. They're online through Zoom. You get to, I deliver information, and then I also have a Q&A, a live Q&A, and then we also have practice time for you to do practices. And so it's a 7-week course. It's starting in June, I think at the end of June. So stay tuned for that. I have a couple of books that I always forget to promote. And of course, I don't have them nearby to show them to you, but I have one. It's called The Ethical Psychic. Thank you to my new member, Amanda Celeste. One of my books is called The Ethical Psychic. It's a guidebook for healers and psychics. On how to have an ethical practice and kind of some of the risks to be aware of when you're working with entities or beings from different realms, or working with people's private psychic information. And then I have another book called Sovereign Wisdom, which is a philosophy book about Native American philosophy. So that's all my announcements. Thank you to everyone for participating in these lives, in my videos, in the community, in the comments. We're all in this together. So thank you for your presence. I do really enjoy reading your comments. Oh, look, somebody's giving me a review. Liz Eson said the course is cool. Strategic Psychic, that's the course that they're talking about. Where's the link for the survey? Wow, that's a good question. I can put it in the chat right now. Let me do that. That's what I should do, right? Okay, let me go get it. All right, so here, where'd you go? Where'd you go? There you are. Okay, here's the link to the survey. Oh, it's a really long link. Oh, why is it so long? It's really long. I usually use a shorter link. Let me see if I can get the shorter length. Usually it lets me, No, for some reason it's not letting me give the shorter link. So there's the link. It's kind of long, but if you want to fill out the survey, oh yeah, let's talk about Egypt real quick. I am so excited about this new scientific information coming out about the pyramids in Egypt. So they have now used kind of like sonar equipment where they're able to kind of x-ray the earth and see what structures exist below the Sphinx and the different pyramids. And what they found are that there are structures going hundreds of feet down into the earth, like these giant columns that then go into these giant buildings, and under those buildings there are other buildings. And I've been hearing about this for several months. There were some scientists who, used this equipment to map certain areas in Egypt. And I heard about it months ago, and then I didn't really hear much more about it. And I was like, why aren't people talking about this more? And so now I hear people are starting to talk about it again. And the way they're talking about it is they're saying there's a second Sphinx, which is just like another way to describe all of these structures underneath the earth. Now, the reason I'm really excited about this is because I have been to the past And, you know, I work with the Akashic records, and I also, as a mystic, travel to other realms. I travel to the past, to the future. And one of the places that I was shown was ancient Egypt. And so I've known for quite a while that the civilization in Egypt was a highly advanced civilization, much more advanced than ours. But it existed a really long time ago. And one of the things I was told about ancient Egypt was that the pyramids, first of all, they're not burial chambers. That's so absurd. They're not burial chambers. We're so ignorant. But they're healing. At least one use. I don't know for all of them, but one of the ones I was shown, I went into, it's a healing chamber. And so those like esophagi that are in the pyramids, you could go lay in that, and then the energy was being routed through the pyramid, and the pyramid was covered in crystal, some type of like granite that has crystals. It was covered in something that was very conductive, and energy was brought down from other realms through the pyramid. The pyramid is like a focusing device to focus healing energy. And people would go into the pyramid and they would get healing, and they would also use it to just do different things energetically. Let's just put it like that. So you can think of them as like giant energetic tuning forks or chambers or healing chambers. But we can't begin to understand with our level of understanding what they were for. But that information, anytime I see anything coming out that's starting to reveal to us the truth about that society, I get excited. You know, part of why we're so ignorant too about that society is because of racism, right? Because this is Africa. Egypt is in Africa. It's not a different country. It's not a different continent. It's not some other. It's that the Egyptians weren't white, right? But because of our Eurocentric culture, we've been taught that the only people that ever did anything impressive were Europeans and their ascendants, antecedents. And so when, you know, scientists came across Egyptian artifacts and they realized how advanced that culture was, it made them very uncomfortable because Egyptian culture is far more advanced than any European culture ever was. And so that's part of why information about that country and that culture has not really been explored more than it has up until now, because of that kind of it's like an obstacle we have in our thinking, this focus on racial hierarchies, right? It really gets in the way of us learning things. Right. Yeah, so people are talking about him. Yeah, so here Lisa is saying, yeah, the pyramids generated energy and sent it out to the monoliths across the country. Yeah, so there are pyramids all over the planet, actually, and they're located on ley lines. You know, there are energetic connections between pyramids. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, the more stuff you hear coming out about these ancient civilizations or about ETs or anything like that, the more excited you should be about the fact that we're in the middle of a positive change, because we're in this period of revelation where more and more information is coming out, and that's going to allow us to evolve, to like raise our consciousness, to envision and begin to create a very different type of world. And so anytime I see anything coming out about any of those things, I feel very, very hopeful. So thank you, everybody. I will see you again next Thursday or in one of my posts in the comments. So thank you all for coming, and have a nice Passover or Easter holiday if you celebrate that. Oh yeah. So, some people are saying that the Bledsoe prediction is supposed to happen this weekend. And when I talked about that in a post, somebody said, "Oh no, he revised it, and now he's saying it's not going to happen till the fall." And so I forget what his predictions. See, now I'm forgetting it, but it has to do with the star beings, with disclosure, with contact. I was shown the apple blossoms and the apple blossoms blooming at the time that something super significant is happening at the House of White. So that could be April or May. I don't know the exact harvest or timeline of the blossoming of the apple blossoms in DC. But yeah, a lot of people are talking about April. A lot of people are talking about Easter. So I just feel, the energy is amazing. And I feel change on the horizon. And so I'm feeling very hopeful about something happening very soon. All right. So I will see you all next time. Thank you so much.